Hello you guys, welcome to another reading vlog. Today we are going to do some 26 and 26 reading, and I'm very excited because I feel like I started to do this at the end of last year when I was feeling like, oh my gosh, I haven't read nearly as much of my 25 and 25 as I should have. And I really liked the idea of the spinner. I feel like it just like made it so I had to just like decide that that was the book that I was reading, and I really enjoyed that. So we're gonna do that again today and in this video in general. I have already read 2 of the books on my 26 and 26 just kind of like out of coincidence. I forgot that they were on there, and after reading them I went back to look and they were on there, and so I was able to knock those 2 off, and that was The Long Walk by Stephen King and You'll Be the Death of Me by Karen McManus. Super excited that I already got 2 down. I think on average I have to read 2 to 3 books per month to finish by the end of the year, so I feel like I'm already pacing in a good direction, but I would like to try to do around 3 per month so that I can like actually get it done by the time we get to the end of the year. And that also allows me to maybe have 2 here and there, because some of them, I'm looking at The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, they're long. I know that in months where I read something longer, I'll only read 2, for example. Like I said earlier, I really enjoyed the spinner wheel that we did last time, or for the last few of these types of videos. So I actually was headed over the weekend to an event with Ryan, and he was driving, and the drive was going to be like nearly an hour. So I wanted to just like pick up a new book, and I figured I would start a book then. So I have a recording right here of spinner that I did, and I ended up getting Carrie Soto Is Back, and I've only read 1 chapter so far, so I don't have too many thoughts. It's super easy to read, just like any Taylor Jenkins Reid book. It actually like makes me intrigued about tennis, even though I don't really care about tennis at all. That's only being 1 chapter into it, and really it's just like more because it's this revenge story in a way. So that's what I'm gathering from it so far, at least. I'm excited to pick it up. I've had this on my Kindle for a little while. I got it on one of those like deals, or for whatever reason it was $1, so I've had it just like sitting in my TBR shelf in my Kindle for a little bit, and it's time to clear that up. It's time to clear that up. It's time to clear this TBR shelf up. So we're gonna read as much as we can in these vlogs, and I'm gonna start with tonight. So it's already 10:15. I'm pretty tired because we had a really packed weekend. So I'm gonna read for a little bit before I go to bed and probably fall asleep to reading, and I'll give you guys all of my thoughts along the way. Alrighty, I come to you with updates on Carrie Soto Is Back. I'm about 15% of the way through, so not super far in. I'm still learning a lot about what's going on, but essentially so far it's about this woman who becomes a super popular, famous tennis player. She becomes amazing at the sport, like literally one of the best, and then she retires, and during her retirement someone else kind of like comes for her title, so she decides to come back to the sport. But obviously like we get that little piece of it in the first chapter, and then we go back to how she began, and she talks all about her start of the sport and like how she got into it and that kind of thing. I really enjoy so far. One, the writing style, that's just like how Taylor Jenkins Reid is. Her writing style is fantastic. I feel like everything that she writes is really easy to read and like really easy to understand very quickly, very easy to like pick up and put back down. So I do really love that. I also really like that I hear has done this in Atmosphere as well, but in this book too, she talks about tennis in such a way where like she's either like, for some reason a character is explaining it to another character, or someone's being taught something and then therefore the reader can be taught something. So like if I don't know anything about tennis, which I don't, I can still understand what she's talking about, and now that sets up for success my reading journey because I understand what's going on in these matches that are happening. So I really like the way that she does that. I think she handles it super well, and it's not like putting some rules at the beginning of the book or stopping the narrative so that, you know, she can explain the rules of tennis or anything like that. It's really baked into the story, so that makes it really easy to understand. And then so far, really the only touches of Spanish that, or like our character being Argentinian, the only reason it really matters is that she's adding little touches of Spanish. Like I don't really feel like it's adding a ton to the story, although I do enjoy the representation of like Latinas in these books, but I don't know that she had to be Latina. Like if it's purely for the representation, then I think that that's fine, but I don't feel like it had to be that she was Latina. So far that's how I feel about that subject. But again, I do enjoy the representation, so I'm not mad about it either. And then last but not least, in the little snippet that I just read, it says something to the effect of like, and this is when I met Mateo. And so clearly we're gonna have a little love interest. I was actually curious with this book if we were going to have a love interest, because earlier I was reading and I was like, is there gonna be more to this than just a tennis story? Like, will there be love? Which in most of her books, Taylor Jenkins reads books. That is so difficult for me to say. In most of her books, there is a love story. So I had a feeling, but officially, yes, there will be. So I'm excited to read more about that. I think it'll definitely make me more excited to read about the book. So I'm liking it. I think it's good so far. I feel like it's so fast paced, and it is also a shorter book, so hopefully I can get through it pretty fast. So those are my updates for now. Again, I'm only like 15% of the way through, so we have some reading to do, and I'm gonna get to that right now. Read a bit. I'm pretty tired tonight, so I might actually start to think about heading to bed, but I'm liking it so far. Okay, sorry, quick update. I got the name wrong. It's not Mateo, it's Marco. This relationship is happening so fast. I don't know like at what age she is. I forget what age she is in this exact chapter, because some of the chapters jump by like a couple of years. So she's at least like a teenager at this point, that's fine. But I feel like she's not, like she's almost like old enough for it to not be going this fast. Like I feel like when you're like a kid, maybe like you might kiss somebody really fast and then it's just like, oh, okay, bye. But that doesn't really happen as like a teenager, because I feel like you're like kind of too self-aware. I don't know, maybe that's just me, who knows. I feel like this relationship is happening very quickly, and I'm intrigued to see what happens in the rest of the story, because what I've noticed as like sort of like a trend with a lot of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books is there ends up being a relationship, but it's a bit toxic for XYZ reason. So I'm curious if that's going to happen again here, but I guess we'll find out. It's just interesting. Like it really went from like, I've never met you, to let's kiss and then I'm gonna run away. Like what does that mean for the rest of this book and the rest of the relationship? I don't really know. So I guess we're gonna find out. But yeah, Marco, just going for it. Good morning, you guys. Today is Thursday, and I wanted to update you guys a little bit on my reading for Carrie Soto is Back. I just got to a part where I can't remember if I said this already before, but it makes sense to me now why things like the relationship that Carrie was having happened. And there's like a couple of other things that just like talk about like women in fame essentially, and just like the concept of like, oh, you need to smile more, and like all of those types of concepts are kind of like happening in here, because it is, you know, like the 50s, 60s, 70s that we're talking about when it comes to, well, now we're in the 80s with this chapter specifically, but like when those comments are being made, which I think like even still today, a lot of those comments are made to women. So very interesting. She did something to her dad that like business wise I kind of understand, but the way that she handles everything is like very immature, and I feel like it's that very typical like, I'm in my 20s now, I'm a full adult and I know what I'm doing, but like you look back and you're like, I had no idea what I was doing. The way she handles things with her father, it's just so sad to me. Like it breaks my heart a little bit to see her treat her dad this way, but at the same time I'm curious to see how that dynamic plays out, because we did get at the very first chapter like a flash of their relationship and like what happens to them. And so especially her dad, like something big happens to him. I want to know like at what point that happens to him, and at what point does that, like, do they stay as a pair, or does this thing that happens tear them apart a little bit? I hope I'm making sense. I'm trying to be a bit vague on purpose, but it's interesting to me, and I have a lot of questions about it. So we're gonna read some more. I am about 20% of the way through the book now, and I hope to read a bunch today and just get through as much as I possibly can, because I want to know so much. This book, again, is just like the writing style is so easy to read. It's so fast paced. Each of the chapters are only like 10-15 minutes long, so it's actually perfect for that reason, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm gonna keep reading and I'll give you all the updates on the book. Okay, I'm not super far along, but I had a couple of thoughts that I wanted to share with you guys. I completely forgot. So I know that Taylor Jenkins Reid, she does this thing where all of her books are like surrounded by this like universe. And so all of them are kind of interconnected, and you don't need to actually know each of the characters in order to understand the story, but it's just like that much better if you do. And I completely forgot that Carrie Soto is like kind of a villain in a different book, which is Malibu Rising. So then when I was reading this, I was like, oh, I wonder how they're going to be connected, because some books it's just like a quick little cameo from a character in a different book, and in this one it's like she is a huge piece of Malibu Rising because she really affects one of our main characters, and again she's like a villain in that book. And so I was remembering why for the longest time I didn't feel like picking it up, because I didn't care at all about Carrie Soto. Like I hated her, and so I was like, why would I want to read a whole book about her? And I guess it's been enough time, so I was like reading and I was like, I wonder when they're gonna have a cameo. And then I read the cameo, and it's much more than just a cameo, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot completely about this whole piece of this story that I already kind of knew. It's so weird hearing her side of things and like still seeing her be kind of a villain, but like understanding where she's coming from and like why she's the way that she is. In some ways it's kind of, it makes me sad for her, but yeah, I completely forgot about this whole piece of this story, and I'm so excited now because for the longest time I was like, there has to be more romance or like more tension than just the tennis tension. Obviously, like there has to be that social tension in here, and it's here, and I'm excited. So we're almost 100 pages into the book. There's only 300 or so pages. I think it's like 320. Am I right, or am I making that up? Let me see. It's like 350-ish pages of this book. So we have a little bit to go. I think I have like 6 hours of reading to do if I wanted to finish it today. So we'll see how far we get. I'm just loving how everything is interconnected. I forgot completely about the side of the story, and I'm so happy about it. Okay, I'm like 40% of the way through the book right now, and I'm at the point where we're just kind of going through a bunch of different matches, which is very interesting. But I'm like curious if it's just going to be a bunch of different matches or if there's like more within those matches. I'm hoping, like, I don't want every single match chapter to just be about that match. Like maybe something happens leading up to that match or right after that match. That could be interesting, but we'll see. I don't know how I'm liking this book so far. I also had the realization that I like still don't like this main character. Like the way that they describe her is that everyone around her calls her a bitch, basically, like the media and whatever, and she's like a bit more misunderstood than that, which I totally understand and like agree that like the media probably shouldn't be calling people that, but like she is so unapologetically mean and like doesn't really care about other people and like doesn't ever say thank you to people or congratulate people or have anything nice to say to anybody. And so already knowing her as a villain from a different book and seeing her perspective in this book and like how she doesn't really feel sorry seemingly, because it's like it's a more of a self-centered thing. Like she's just thinking about herself and how she enjoyed that relationship. I don't know, I just don't really like her. I feel like she's just not a good person. Who knows, maybe she has like a whole character arc journey that she has to go on, but for right now I'm just not enjoying her as a character, and I'm just hopeful that each of these chapters are not just about this is the footwork that I did and then this was the shot that I hit or like whatever. Like I don't think personally that I would enjoy that. I want more. Like I thought that this story was gonna be more than just tennis because that's how everybody put it, and it feels pretty much just about tennis. I don't know, I'm not sure really how I feel about it. I saw that Libby has the audiobook available to me like immediately. I don't have to wait for it, so I might get the audiobook just to listen to it while I work or something so I can kind of speed it up, because I don't really feel like I'm enjoying this book as much as I thought I was going to. And I feel like lately Taylor Jenkins Reid's books have been feeling that way, which is why I was scared to pick up Atmosphere at the end of last year. That one I think that generally I will be more excited about because I find space to be more interesting than tennis personally. So I think that that would be cool, but I don't know, we'll see. I want a little bit more tension, I guess. Like the big tension is that she's older and she's coming back to win a title, and I think that that's a lot for her to be able to do, through, but it doesn't feel super tense. Like if she doesn't win the title, it's really not the end of the world. It doesn't destroy her life like an affair would, or in fantasy novels when like someone could literally die over something. So it just feels very low stakes in comparison. So I don't know. I'm not trying to compare it to other books, but I think that that's the emotion that I'm feeling, is that I'm like, I get it. I get why it feels like it would be the end of the world, but it wouldn't actually be the end of the world. Like she's still rich. It's not like she's gonna lose all her money. So I don't know about this one so far. We'll see. It's a good book in terms of like the writing style and how fast paced it is. So like at minimum it's a 3. It might just not be my book, but it will be some people's book. Let's keep reading and see how these chapters go. I'm hopeful that they add a little something else into them. I just wanted to give you guys a really quick update. I've actually been listening to the audiobook a little bit. I just started because I started doing like my laundry and stuff, and I'm really liking the audiobook. I like the person who reads the book, and then on top of it, there's all of these like little snippets of like newspaper snippets and things like that within the book, and they do like a little noise and like new actors for that little piece where like people are commentating on the sport. So I do think that that's kind of nice. I feel like there is a little bit of romance starting up now with the actual person who the romance will be with, because the first couple of people that like the romance was happening with, it didn't go through. So now we finally have a budding romance, which is exciting, but I feel like it's just not enough for me. And I feel like the majority of this book is about tennis and like her comeback, which like that's the whole premise of the book. I get it, but I just thought that there would be a little bit more. So I don't know. We're gonna keep listening. I'm gonna keep doing my chores, and I will continue to update you guys. Hello you guys, I just finished Carrie Soto is Back. I am going to rate this one 3 stars. I think that it was much faster once I started listening to it as an audiobook, and I'm glad that I did, because I think that if I would have read this one, I wouldn't have liked it as much as I did as an audiobook. I do think that the cool things about the audiobook were that, like, for example, the pieces like I mentioned where like there was like newspapers or like announcers or whatever, and they had a different voice actor for that, which was really neat. I just feel like there was a lot of stuff that was pretty deep, like the relationship that Carrie had with her dad, or like the relationship that she eventually had with the male love interest, that felt kind of surface level, and I feel like we really could have gotten more of that. And instead what we got more of is purely tennis. I think that like the struggle of her going through everything that she went through when it came to her tennis was very interesting, but I just feel like, I don't know, I thought that it would be more than just the tennis, and maybe that sounds silly that like I thought that it was going to be more, but I truly thought that we would see more than just her struggling with making this comeback and the entirety of that comeback. Like I thought that like between the comeback we would see more about her day-to-day life, or like more about her love life, or more about her family life, and we saw pieces of it, but I just felt like a majority of it was the tennis, and I wasn't super into it. So I don't know, I think it was definitely a well-written book. It was a good book. I really liked the audiobook, but I just don't think it was anything to write home about. There's some books that just like stay with me forever, and this was unfortunately not one of them. So I think that it was good, but I think 3 stars makes sense for this one. Anyway, I get to check it off my list, which is very exciting, and I'm very excited to choose the next book. So let's spin the wheel together, because last time I spun it on my own. So I'm very, very excited to get to spin it with you guys. And there are some books in here that I'm like a little nervous to spin, and there's some books that I'm very excited for. So let's see. Here's our spinner wheel. What is it gonna be? Oh, this is one of the ones I was scared of. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm nervous about this one. I'm not gonna lie. I actually have this one as a physical copy. It's right here on my little book. This is like, so this is my bookshelf along with this side of the bookshelf, but these books that are right here, that's like my physical TBR, and these are just like from a variety of different things, like little free libraries, books that I bought over the years that I just haven't picked up yet, things that were gifted to me, things like that. So actually the Goldfinch is from a little free library. The Secret History by Donna Tartt was one of my favorite books last year, but the reason why I'm so scared of this one is because it is 771 pages. 771. That's a lot of pages for this book. I actually don't fully know what it's about. I think it's about a boy who survives some kind of something. Let me read it really fast. So it seems like his mother, Theo is the main character. He's 13 years old and his mom dies in some kind of accident, but he somehow survives and he ends up abandoned by his father. So he grows up in a very wealthy family. And then I think it goes fast forward to when he's an adult. I don't really know like what type of genre this even is. I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous about this one, but I do know that it won a Pulitzer Prize, which is exciting, except for the fact that so did All the Light We Cannot See. And last year I tried so hard to read that book and I could not get into it. This one being nearly 800 pages is not what I needed right now, but you know what? We're gonna just go for it. We're gonna try it. I'm gonna see if maybe there's a Kindle edition, and then that way I can hopefully like read it when I'm on the go. But 800 pages sounds incredibly intimidating right now. So this is the downside of doing the little spinner wheel, I suppose. But it is the books that I said that I was going to read, and I need to get them out of the way because this is how I end up in a situation like I did last year where I just push everything off to the end of the year. So let's look into The Goldfinch. I want to see if they have it on Libby. I will update you guys once I actually start reading it. Hello you guys, I wanted to give you a quick update on The Goldfinch. The book itself is broken up into a bunch of different chapters, and then those chapters are broken up into parts, and then those parts are broken up into other sections. So there's like a lot of like mini sections, but on the Kindle it reads only like the chapters as a length. So there's only 12 chapters for nearly 800 pages. And so it can be kind of intimidating on the Kindle when you see you have like over 2 hours left in a chapter. But anyway, I actually flipped back over to the Kindle because this is actually like very heavy and like kind of difficult to read. I know that sounds so silly, but like you can't just like hold it like a normal book like this because of how thick it is. So I've actually kind of gotten over the little time thing on here and it's fine. I'm on chapter 3 now, which is almost 100 pages in. I think I'm about 10% of the way through the book. I'm really enjoying it so far. I feel like the first chapter was a little backstory heavy, but I do think that it was important to understand who our character is, who his mother is, all of those details. I do feel like, again, it was a little backstory heavy where like, I don't know that we needed 50 pages of that, but in the last book that I read by Donna Tartt, I feel like she made me feel the same way and then surprised me when I got to the end of the book and I was like, oh, all those details actually did matter. So it's possible that we get the exact same scenario. We did officially get to the part where our main character is in this museum with his mother. He's supposed to be going off to his school to talk to their principal, I believe, because he got in trouble at school. And so they stop off in a museum just because they're a little bit early and it's raining, and so they're like, let's get some reprieve from the rain, let's go in this museum, and a bomb goes off and our main character is one of the only survivors, and unfortunately his mom passes away. So right now he's still 13 in the book, and he is hearing officially that his mom has died and kind of like trying to figure out where it is that he's supposed to go now that he doesn't really have a caretaker. His dad is not really in the picture. So anyway, these are all things that you mostly get from the back of the book here. And so now it's more of like this story of like what happens next and like how his life transforms based off of like this one really bad event. But also the whole like namesake of this book is when the museum explodes, this little painting, which is the Goldfinch, is very important to his mother, and he ends up seeing it just like on the floor, and so he takes it, and so now he has that painting in his possession, which is very intriguing. So we'll see how that ties into the story. Obviously, if it's named after this painting, it's going to be a big part of it, but I'm curious to see. I think that this book is mostly just like a generalized fiction novel. It's not necessarily like a mystery or a thriller or a romance or anything like that. It's just like generalized fiction. So I feel like I haven't really read a generalized fiction in a while, and sometimes they're pretty character driven rather than like, I mean, a big event happens, but it's not like they're trying to solve something or anything like that, which I'm not usually familiar with. So I'm excited to jump in and learn a little bit more about all of the characters. Okay, I wanted to update you guys because I have been reading a bit more. I'm almost 150 pages into this book, so I'm still like technically very early on. I'm like almost 20% of the way through, which feels like I've been reading for so long, but that's mostly because so much has happened in this book. Like, I'm obsessed with this book. I was so nervous about picking it up, and I'm so happy that I did, because even though it's long, I think that Donna Tartt is just such a good author. And I mean, who am I to say that? She literally won a Pulitzer Prize for this exact book, but I just think that the way that she tells stories just make me want to keep reading. Like normally if something is extremely character driven, I really need an event to have happened or to be happening soon for me to want to read it. And I think the only exception to that has been The Bright Years. The Bright Years was so character driven and nothing was really like, there was no event, but it was super exciting and I loved every minute of it. With this book, there also like there is an event where like there is a literal bombing in this book, but that's at the very beginning of the book. And so the rest of it, it's mostly just like watching the aftermath of like what happened with this boy after the bombing and after he lost his mother. And it's fascinating. I feel like in the first 150 pages, I've been glued to the book. I feel like I have wanted to like continue to read even though there's no point that I'm getting to. Like it's not like, oh, and then this is how he got to this place. Like, I mean, I guess in a little bit of a way it is, but not really. Like we know that in the future he ends up moving to Amsterdam, but that's not the point of the book. Like we're never looking forward to like, oh, how did he end up there? It's more just, again, learning about the aftermath of this really tragic thing that happened in his life and understanding who he is as a person. I'm so happy he has the friends that he has because he just sort of like landed in the situation and picked a random person to call because he didn't know where to go and like he's not close with his dad, and he ended up at this family's house. It's like a very wealthy family in New York, and he has like a really great friend too out of it. I mean, like they had initially been friends when they were younger and then kind of fallen apart over the years, but it feels when you're reading it like he's having a tough time and he doesn't feel close to anybody right now. But when you're thinking about how the family dynamic is and who this friend is to our main character, it's very sweet and wholesome that he's kind of the only person in his life that's not constantly tiptoeing around his emotions, and instead he's like helping him through things in different ways, like either getting him out of the situation like mentally or telling him to physically go look for something if he needs to, like always just supporting him, at least up until this point in the book. I'm really enjoying it a lot. I'm excited that I finally picked it up, and honestly I think that because of how intimidating Donna Tartt's writing feels for whatever reason, because once I'm actually in the book, it's not actually that intimidating, but maybe the length of the book or again, the writing style or what have you, I think that this is one that I probably would have put off until the end of the year and then just waited around to read like I did with Secret History. But I'm really loving her story, and I don't know, I think that this just proves to me that one, I need to branch out more, and I also need to read more of her books because I've loved every single one so far. And again, I'm only 20% of the way through this book, so who knows, but I'm really enjoying it so far. So I'm excited to keep reading, and I'll continue to update you guys along the way. Hello you guys, it's been a sec and I'm nearly on page 200, and it's actually kind of funny because I partially forgot that this book was even called The Goldfinch because they've barely mentioned the painting at all. I kind of forgot that like that is part of what this whole book is about, because we've just basically been following Theo as he's been trying to navigate his life post-accident, which has been so intriguing and very exciting. Like he's been meeting very interesting people that I'm really enjoying understanding those relationships, and I've just honestly been really enthralled by all of that. But nearly 200 pages in, we're getting more information about the goldfinch itself and what the museum thinks happened to it, and I think ideally like what Theo does with it. I don't really know, but we'll see. So it's very interesting. I feel like not many times in a book am I like so excited about learning more about a character that I forget what the main premise of the book is supposed to be. But this book is just so well written, and I do really feel like these are real people rather than characters, and so in that sense I just feel like it's so well done. And even though, like I said earlier, this book is so character driven and there's not really a direction that we're going in, it's been so fascinating to follow along. So we'll see what happens with the goldfinch and like what that whole story is, because I think that that's like the whole direction that we're going to be going in, and I feel like the first few hundred pages are just going to be the starting point of our story, which is very interesting because with a longer book you have that ability to have that much build up with something. But we'll see. Those are my thoughts so far. I'll check in with you guys as I dive deeper into this book. I feel like this one is going to take me a little bit longer than normal, only because it's 2 to 3 times the length of a normal book, but I'm really excited to be reading it. Hello you guys, it's been a sec since I last updated you, and I wanted to give you some updates because it's been a sec. So over the course of the last few days, Ryan and I went to Big Bear, and I thought I would do more reading there than I actually did, but it turned out that we just obviously were like hanging out with each other, exploring parts of Big Bear, things like that. So I didn't do nearly as much reading as I thought. I feel like that happens every time I go on vacation. I always think like, oh, I'm gonna just wake up early, sit, read, and I'm gonna read so much and get through so many books, and then in actuality I read barely anything. But I did swap over to the audiobook for The Goldfinch. I think that this has been a really great way for me to read it because I'm still thoroughly enjoying this book. I feel like my biggest qualm with audiobooks in general is that when I listen to an audiobook, I typically listen to it, like right now I'm listening on 2.5 times speed. I typically listen pretty quickly to audiobooks, and so if this is like a 300-page book, I feel like I don't connect with the characters very well because I have not spent a lot of time with them. But with this book, first and foremost, I read the first like 35% or so from my book. So I did connect a lot with the characters and I'm enjoying the book a lot. But also this book is very long, and so the audiobook itself is also taking me a long time. Like even on 2.5 times speed, I probably have another 8 hours of listening to do. Whereas for like a 300-page book, I would be done with that in like 3 to 4 hours. So it's just a lot slower in general in terms of how much time I'm taking, not necessarily the pacing. And so I feel like I really enjoy it. I was also kind of like thinking about the fact that this is a Pulitzer Prize winner, and so was All the Light We Cannot See, and both of those were very thick and like character driven type stories. And I was realizing that like first and foremost, that's like the whole reason why they're Pulitzer Prize winners. It's typically something that really talks about an adventure that a character is going through and like a holistic life picture. So those books tend to be a bit more character driven, but this one I'm liking a lot. It's interesting because this painting, The Goldfinch, comes up every now and then on this story, but mostly we're just like following our main character being a boy and learning about how to go through life and like his different life stages despite all of the things, or within all of the things that are happening to him, because a lot happens to him. I mean, it starts with the museum bombing and his mom dying and him being the sole survivor, or like one of the only survivors. I shouldn't say sole survivor because someone else does survive, but he, you know, has to move. He loses friends because of this move, and he also gains friends, but then he goes through like all of these different life things. And right now he's at like a very pivotal part of his life because it's kind of like what's gonna happen next to him, because he's scared of things like child services and like going into a foster care system and all of that. So it's very interesting. I feel so deeply for our main character, and I think that the story is just like so well told. It does remind me a lot of Secret History, where just the way that Donna Tartt writes is very interesting, and overall I'm really enjoying it. I like the way that she writes, and I would read more of her books, but I definitely have to like sit down and be ready for them. But I think that listening to this as an audiobook was very helpful. And then what I also started, because I was really in the mood for something a little bit faster paced, and this is a shorter book and I've heard nothing but good things, Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I think that's how you say her last name. I don't actually really know. This one is interesting so far, and I haven't gotten very far into it. Let me actually see how far I am. I haven't read it. Yesterday we actually just got back from Big Bear, but it snowed a ton, and so in the morning I again had this picture of like I was gonna be like hanging out at the house and reading and this whole thing, but in reality I couldn't because I had to shovel the driveway. So I'm only 10% of the way through this book, but each of the chapters is very short, very quick. We basically have come to the point where our main character, she just washes up on the shore. Well, I don't know if she is our main character. There's a bunch of characters. She washes up on this shore in this little island near Antarctica, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's a family living there because the dad's job is to essentially take care of this seed bank, and his children live on this island with him, and they help with like taking care of animals, or not taking care of them because they're wildlife, but like they look after them. Like if they're having an issue during a pregnancy, then they're gonna help and like step in and things like that. So talks a lot about the wildlife, like the seals and the penguins on the actual island, but also something a little bit eerie is happening. One of our main characters, he just entered this cabin and there's just blood everywhere. So we don't know what that's about yet, and we don't know why the main woman character has just washed up on the shore, like why she chose to come here or how she even got there, because it's nearly impossible to get there. So very interesting so far. I didn't use my spinner wheel for this one because I really just wanted something that was going to be fast-paced in contrast with my audiobook that I'm now listening listening to, so I think that this one I just chose, but it is on my 26 and 26. So I figured every now and then I'm gonna have to just choose one instead of spinning the wheel, because I wanna make sure I'm also not putting myself in any kind of slump. So that's the update on what I've been reading. I'm very excited. I think I wanna get into more of Wild Dark Shore today. I was this morning listening to more of my audiobook, but I'm kind of trying to swap between the two, and I have the goal of trying to finish both of them by the end of this week. So today is Wednesday. We don't have many days left, but today I have the day off, and I just figured I would spend some time reading this morning. I also want to spend some time with P because, oh, can you see him right there? Today is his gotcha day. I got him today 7 years ago, which is so insane to think about. I cannot believe all the things that we've been through and how much Ryan loves him too. Like over time, Ryan did not get P with me, if that's not clear, but yeah, very special to me. I obviously love P so much and so happy that we're in each other's lives. I can't believe he's gonna be 8 this year. Like, I feel like so much time has passed already and I just want more time, but we're gonna try to do something with him today too. So maybe we'll go somewhere. There's a little break in the rain today, so it's gonna be a bit sunny, so maybe we'll take him somewhere to prance around, and then we'll get into some more reading too. Hello you guys, I wanted to update you. I'm about 35% of the way of Wild Dark Shore and I'm really enjoying it. I'm still reading The Goldfinch, but again, I'm reading that as an audiobook, so I'm now about 50% of the way through. And just a quick chat about The Goldfinch. Right now I'm on part 3, just about to start it, and each part is basically like each different location that our character lives in. So it starts in New York, then it goes to Vegas, and then he's now back in New York. And this journey is just so fascinating. I mean, like, understanding as he's growing up what's happening to each of these adults, or like understanding more of adult life, I think is something that everyone experiences, and our main character is starting to experience at a very early age because he's had to, with his parents being who they are and like what had happened to them happening to them, if that makes sense. So he's really had to grow up fast. He's in that stage again where like he's realizing that not all adults are exactly who they say that they're going to be or as reliable as one another. So it's very fascinating, and I'm excited to see what happens next in his like New York journey. I can't remember how many parts of the book there are now that I'm saying it out loud. I could probably quickly check on my Kindle, but I do wonder if each of the parts will truly go to each location that he's in, or if it just is actually like a different life stage, because I can't imagine our main character ever leaving New York now that he's back, but things could happen, so we'll see. My Kindle has gotten so slow, so I'm like trying to check, but it's taking my Kindle so long just to like click a button. Oh, there's 5 parts. So I guess we'll find out if our character does leave New York again, or if he's just there to stay and the parts just mean different life stages. So we'll find out as I continue to read. And back to Wild Dark Shore, there's a part a little bit early on. I'm like 35% of the way through this one. There's a part early on where one of our main characters, Dominic, he goes to this cabin that's on like the shore of the water, and there's blood everywhere. And at first I thought that it was something to do with the mother having passed, but something just like didn't sit right with that particular theory. And now that this other character, Rowan, is on the island, she's basically looking for her husband because she's getting all these weird emails basically saying he needs help and to come to the island. So she's there now, but he's nowhere to be found. And so now I'm like, is that what the blood was all about? Or like what was that whole part about? Like, what is happening on this island? Because something's going on. The water is rising, the island is considered not safe anymore, and with this like weird cabin situation, like I don't know what's going on this island. So it's very intriguing. We're still at a point where our characters aren't really communicating with one another, but again, it comes from a place of like not being sure if you can trust the other person. So I think that this is like less of a miscommunication trope and more of like a thriller type thing where it's like I don't want to show my cards ahead of time. So I'm really loving it. I think I could probably finish it today. I only have like 5 hours left of the book, and I know that that sounds like a lot, but I have no plans between today and tomorrow, so I think it could happen. So we'll see. I'm gonna keep reading and enjoying. You actually can't tell, but he is here with me. He's just right here. He loves to be underneath a blanket. Okay, I was just reading my book, Wild Dark Shore, and I was going through just to like see, I don't know, like what chapters were left. And I realized at the end there was a chapter that just says a note on the setting. And I looked into it and read it, and it actually, I'm like glad I read this before finishing the book, because it talks about how the whole setting of Shearwater, which is the island that this book is based off of, or like the setting for this book, I guess you could say, the whole setting of this book is based off of Macquarie Island. She says it's a sub-Antarctic island halfway between Tasmania and Antarctica. The author herself, she went to this island with her husband and her child. And so it's just like, it's so fascinating. Like there's again a whole chapter on it. It's only a couple of pages, but it's so interesting to learn more about like that this island actually exists in some way, shape, or form. And it's something that you can like actually look into. And like even this global seed vault that existed there had flooded in 2016, which is insane, because in theory that should have been one of the most secure places. And it's just fascinating to read and like understand what the whole setting is based off of, and the fact that she actually visited there herself. It's not just like something that she's heavily researched. So I really admire that, and yeah, I'm really enjoying this book a lot, clearly. So I'm gonna keep reading. I've sat outside. It's such a lovely day. It's finally sunny. We've been obviously in like between Big Bear and just like it raining here, we've had a lot of weather lately. So it's been really nice to just sit outside and enjoy some sunshine. I know P's really enjoying it too. He's looking for little critters right now. Hi. But he's been begging to go outside, and I think he's really liking it out here. So I'm gonna read some more, just enjoy the day and try to get through as much as possible. Good morning, you guys. It's Sunday and I'm still reading Wild Dark Shore. I'm about 60% of the way through now, and it's getting to the point of me not being able to put it down. Our main character, Rowan, it's funny that I call her our main character because really everybody's a main character and everyone gets multiple chapters in their perspective, but for me, for whatever reason, Rowan feels like our main character. She's now, it's gone from like mystery to her now being scared, and like me being scared for her too, and like not just kind of like something is weird, but like things are getting eerie and like a little bit terrifying. And I don't know if it's the island, I don't know if it's other people on the island. Like we have no idea what's actually happening right now. There's just so many like little things that keep happening, and she's trying to figure out what's going on and what happened to her husband, and obviously not ruffle too many feathers because she wants to keep herself safe too. But it is so fascinating and so fun to read, and I'm finally happy that I'm at a place where I feel like I can't put a book down. Wait, what? You guys, it's early. I don't even have my phone. Oh yes I do. It's 6 a.m. and I am about to finish Wild Dark Shore. I am 95% of the way through, and so much is happening right now. I actually cannot stop. Like this is so insane. Before I do finish though, I wanted to tell you guys, because I wrote down a couple of things because I actually couldn't stop, and just like quickly wrote them down because I was like, I don't have time to update you, but now that I'm here, I figure I'll tell you. Each character in this book gets their own chapter. There's only one chapter that's from a different person's POV. And sometimes when I read books that have different POVs, it can be a little confusing, only because the author will purposefully put you in different people's POVs so you can get information, but they don't always make the POVs feel different. And so then it's like, wait, who's experiencing this emotion or whatever? But in this book, it is so wildly different. Like every single POV, the only two that are like mildly similar are the two adults, but every single one of the kids completely different. Like everything emotionally, the way that they talk, like everything is just so different in such a unique and like refreshing way. And in particular, one of the kids, his name is Orly, he basically just experiences life through these seeds that they're trying to save in their seed bank. And hearing him talk about different emotions or like different things that they're going through on the island through the seeds is so fascinating to me. Like his whole chapter will just be about a type of seed or like something in nature or a type of tree or a type of plant, but you realize as you're reading it that it's actually about something bigger that has been happening on the island. And it's so fascinating that the author can do that, and it's just so unique, and it just goes to show like how a kid's thought process, or like how he processes his emotions and his thoughts because he's so little. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. Like, it's truly some of the best writing I think I've read in a really long time, and it just makes me know whose chapter I'm in, like without having to check, and also just remember that he is the age that he is, because it's a pet peeve of mine when there's like a kid who's supposed to be like 8 years old and then they're using adult language or just like adult words. And I don't mean like cussing or something. Like, if it's appropriate for what the child has gone through, then it makes sense to me, but I mean like they are talking as if they are an adult, and that's just not realistic for an 8-year-old. So this is so fascinating. And then I also wrote that I love that at the end we have all of the information that we need at this point. We know everything, but we don't know how it ends. And I feel like there's a lot of books that will like wrap up or like finally show you their cards and like maybe who committed a murder or why the murder was committed or whatever. I'm thinking specifically like mystery thrillers. That's not necessarily what happens in this book, but once you have that information, the rest of the wrap up is just like something that you have to trudge through. And in this book, now that I have all of the information, there is so much left that we need to know. Like, we have to figure out so many other things, and there's more stuff happening. And like I mentioned at the top of this clip, this book is like, there's 30 minutes left of reading and I have no idea how this is gonna end. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat. I feel so excited and so thrilled by what I'm reading. The mystery is not there anymore because I've solved all of the things, but the thrill is still there. And I think that that's something that's really hard to do, because a lot of books, again, that last couple of chapters, you're just like, oh, I have 30 minutes left to read. I don't really feel like I need that. And this one does not do that. So I highly recommend this one. I think it's also very short. I don't remember because this Kindle edition doesn't have page numbers, but let me check for you guys, because if you guys are interested in reading something a little bit shorter, a little bit more faster paced, something that's very interesting, I highly recommend. According to Goodreads, it's 298 pages, and that was like the hardcover edition, so I don't know what it would be on an actual Kindle or like if you got a paperback, but it is under 300 pages, which is amazing. And that's really hard to find, and that's hard to find. Like, sometimes a story goes too long and you have that feeling of like, this could have just been a shorter story, or sometimes there's not enough information. I feel like it was the perfect amount of info, and obviously we'll see how I feel at the end, like when I've finished the book, but I really feel like this is the perfect length for this book. Like, I feel like I got all the information I needed, not too much, not too little, and I'm just obsessed with it right now. So loving it, and I'm gonna finish it right now. All right, well, I finished the book. Honestly, I don't know that I have anything else to say besides that book was so fantastic, and I'm so happy that I finally got to read it. I am in love with every single character, and the way that it ended is like heart-wrenching, but also it makes so much sense, and I appreciate what the author did. Truly, I feel like she did something that a lot of authors would not opt to do, and oh, I'm just so, it's sad, but I'm happy at the same time that like that's the emotion that I'm getting from the book, instead of just like another happy ending at the end of everything. Not that they didn't get a happy ending, but like it's bittersweet. This is definitely a book that's going to stick with me for a very long time. So very excited that I finally got to it, because this has been on my reading list for, I mean, since it came out, since I heard about it. I love it. So actually I want to read more of this author's writing, because I feel like her writing itself is just so fantastic. So I'll have to go through her backlist, but clearly I'm giving this one a 5-star. So anyway, that was so good. We have to get back to the Goldfinch. I honestly, like, once I got to maybe like 60% of the way through this book, I didn't abandon the Goldfinch, but this one was just like taking precedence whenever I had the opportunity to read. So I need to get back to the Goldfinch, which I know is also going to be a heart-wrenching story, but I don't know, just something about this book was like, I needed to read it and it was calling to me. So happy that I finally gave it a read, and again, highly recommend. It is short and sweet, but it's so good. I'm obsessed. So I'm gonna mark everything on like Goodreads and Fable and stuff, and then we'll probably read some more of Goldfinch today. I have it as the audiobook too, so we'll go between the Kindle edition and the audiobook. Hello you guys, it's a little bit later and I was hoping to come with slightly better news, but alas, here we are. I have some notes on my thoughts on the Goldfinch and I want to give all of those to you, but I do want to let you know that I have made it officially to 75% of the way through the book. And in theory, I would still have 8.5 hours of listening time, which feels like a lot. I've listened to almost exactly 24 hours. In fact, I've listened to 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 4 seconds. So that's a lot of listening time. And I feel like I can judge this book at this point and like tell you my thoughts that I have about it. Reading this book to begin with was so fantastic. I think that the first chunk of it was probably my favorite part. I really enjoyed understanding who our main character Theo was and kind of the things that he was going through. He went through a lot as a kid and eventually had to move to Vegas, and I really enjoyed that each part in this book was separated into like the different phases of his life. So I think there was a total of 5 parts. So there's like 5 main phases of his life, like when he's in New York, Vegas, back in New York, so on and so forth. The thing about this book is, and I think I'm finally learning like over the course of some time, that a Pulitzer Prize winner or nominee or what have you, I don't know if it's maybe the right type of book for me. And what I mean by that is this book is definitely up my alley. I love a character-driven novel where we can see a character from something that happens to them and all the way through to the finish, but this book was, I think, way too long for what it needed to be. I feel like every section of this could have been condensed a little bit, and I think I would have liked it a lot more. I actually wanted to grab this book, Pachinko. This is a National Book Award finalist. I don't actually know what all of the awards mean. I'm sorry, I have to get the dust off of it, but this one has 480 pages, which I remember when I read this book felt like a lot. But this book is a book that follows you through generations, and basically you see, like, again, I think it's like 3 or 4 different generations of this family going from Korea to Japan, and everything that happens with Korea being split into North Korea and South Korea, all of the war, like so many different things. And yet this one is only 480 pages, where this one has 300 extra pages and a lot less happens. So I think that if you're really in the mood for something that is very detailed and very character driven, then this is definitely the book for you. I still felt like because I made it through, I have like so quote unquote few pages left. I probably would have like 200 or so pages left. I feel like I am eligible to rate this book, so I'm giving it a 3-star because I don't hate this book. Like, this is not just like a full DNF or just like a, oh, this was terrible, I'm giving it 1 star. I really love this book a lot. I just wish that I could get to the story without so much detail and without this like curve I feel like that there is, or this boundary with it being as long as it is and so detailed and a little repetitive in that way, or like monotonous in some stages of the book. I think that like my biggest critiques about the book is there are a lot of people in this book that die, which I normally have an issue with authors not being able to kill off their characters. But in this book, I feel like there could have been another option besides death. And I don't want to get too into detail because I don't want to spoil anything. But I think that it would have been more powerful if instead of all these different people at different stages of this book dying, that if they would have maybe like not talked to our main character for some reason, or abandoned him, or maybe they were going through their own accidents or mental health issues or what have you, which did come up. Like, there were characters who were going through their own mental health issues, but then they ended up dying. And I think that if something else happened to those characters, like if they had to go to the hospital, or if they, for whatever reason, didn't end up talking to our character anymore, that would have effectively been the same type of abandonment that death gives you, or that same sense of loss that it gives you, without it being death every single time, because then it just felt like unrealistic that one person would have literally everyone in their lives around them just die. Like, that, it just felt like too, and I know that that can happen, and that does happen to some people, but at the stage in life that he's at, it just felt so unrealistic, and it felt like we were being dramatic for no reason. So I didn't really love that. And there was a lot of things that I did love about this book. I really liked our main character. I liked the edginess that our author took, like even with our character Boris. I kind of hated Boris, but in like the perfect way, where he influenced our main character when he was at such a raw time in his life, and he like needed a good person in his life, and Boris is what he got, and so it kind of shaped him to have the future that he had. I also loved Hobie. He kind of reminds me of like a Hagrid character in some ways, like very big and welcoming and just very warm. arm and always there for him no matter what is happening in his life. And I really enjoyed that character too. I think it's interesting that the goldfinch itself, like while it comes up a lot in this book, I don't feel like it, I don't know, I guess it technically I didn't get to the end, but like I got very far in. I don't feel like it had as much of a common thread as it didn't need to be named the goldfinch in my opinion. I don't think that it shaped our character enough for the whole book to be named after the goldfinch, but it was interesting and it was kind of like how all of this started. So I understand. I just don't know. I don't know if we needed to name the book. Like it made it feel like this painting was going to be so much more important than it actually was. And really it was just a journey of this boy during loss and figuring out the world without anyone having him in his corner. But yet he did have people. He just didn't know that he did. Lastly, he really becomes the person that he hates. And it's so intriguing to watch somebody become that. I think that in so many ways he reflected his own father, and I know that he didn't like his father, so that was very intriguing too. So just everything about this book was so interesting. I will say, if you guys need any trigger warnings, there are a lot of substance abuse talks in this book, so if you are not comfortable with any like drug talk or drug use in books, just be wary of that. But it is a lot. It does come up a lot in this book, but I think that it makes sense for what's going on in this book and what's going on with our characters. So I don't think that it was like just because, but I just want to throw that out there because it was not like 1 or 2 times. Like it's a big plot point in this book. So just throwing that out there. But with that, I think that is going to be the end of this video. I'm a little bummed that we ended it off with a DNF, but we did end also with a 5-star. So I really enjoyed all of the books that we read, and I'm finally glad to get this one off my shelf. I know that I technically didn't finish it, but again, I feel like for all intents and purposes, I know how this book ends too, so I don't feel like I don't know, I don't feel the need to finish it. And knowing how the ending already goes, I feel like I got everything I wanted out of this book, and if I am not having a good time, then I'm going to end up putting myself in a slump. So I don't want to do that either. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for being here and reading with me. I really appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.